Oh, yes, we're back. It's good to be back. It's going to be a busy couple of hours. We're into the home stretch of the NHL regular season. A lot of ground to cover, a lot of stories we want to get into. Looking forward to your comments, your feedback through social media at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports on Twitter and on Instagram. Todd at hockeyunfiltered.com via email. Great guest lineup today for our 2-hour live return as well. Anna Bevis will join us. She is the managing editor of the Ice Garden and women's hockey contributor to The Athletic. We will wrap up the Professional Women's Hockey League Championships from a few days ago and look ahead to what's next. Also, our friend Josh Smith from scoutingtherefs.com. I was very happy he was available this weekend. Wanted to get him on so we can talk about the latest that is happening in the NHL with officiating and video review. We could probably do at least an hour, probably two, with Josh himself, but he will give us a bunch of his time and we will look into that and talk about a bunch of things, refereeing and officiating at the most important time of the year. Sean Leahy, lead writer for NBC Sports Pro-Hockey Talk.com, will be with us in hour number 2 as well. And the radio voice of the Washington Capitals on the Caps radio network, John Walton, also coming up on the program today. Super busy, ready to go. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, Saturdays and Sundays, 11 Eastern, powered by Primetime Radio, live at hockeyunfiltered.com, streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, which is available at the App Store. It is good to be back. It's a good Saturday. It's a long weekend for many. Wishing you joyous celebrations with family and friends. We are having fun. It is a good time to be a hockey fan. The playoffs are coming. A week and a day left in the NHL regular season. And the good news is that once the regular season is over with and we have a couple of days to catch our breath, we get 2 months of Stanley Cup playoffs to come. Interesting matchups that have still yet to be determined with any sort of finality, but I think we're getting close to looking at and figuring out which teams are going to be in the postseason. There's still some gray area out west, but I think the East is pretty much settled upon. I don't think the Florida Panthers are going to make it, and I know that there may be some who will say, oh, you have to believe, and you're slagging on the Panthers. I'm not. It's been a great run that the Florida Panthers have been on since All-Star Weekend, but I'm looking at it through a realistic lens, and I just think they're going to come up a little bit short. I think we've got our 8 finalists in the Eastern Conference. The West, on the other hand, this is where it gets really cool and really interesting. St. Louis and Colorado. I am super impressed with both of these teams. I can't believe that both of them are still fighting for a playoff spot. Didn't think that either was going to make it going back just a few weeks. I thought, no, it's too much ground for St. Louis to make up. I don't think they're going to make it. Colorado, while it's a nice story that they've bounced back so far from last season, I just didn't think that it would be enough. I didn't think that they would be able to make it into the postseason. Now, a week left to go, a week and a day actually, because there's a makeup game a week from Sunday on April the 8th with Florida and Boston. Both the St. Louis Blues and the Colorado Avalanche are in the hunt. There is a chance that both could make it. One will for sure, and that's pretty cool. This is what we want, isn't it? Races being decided right in the end, in the final few games, meaningful games right up to the end of the NHL regular season. Maybe it's determined on the last day, and that is very much a real possibility for the St. Louis Blues and the Colorado Avalanche, that their fate will be determined on the last day of their regular season, 1 week from today, and better still, they will be facing each other. Here's what's left for both teams. Check this out. Blues play in Arizona tonight. Then they host Washington on Monday, a home-and-home with Chicago Wednesday, Friday, and then they finish in Colorado 1 week from today. How cool would that be to have the final playoff spot in the Western Conference decided in one game? 2 teams going head-to-head, winner will get in. Both teams play. It might work out that one team might only need a point to assure themselves, but they are going head-to-head on the final day of the season. We just got to cross our fingers and hope that they are playing for that final playoff spot, because I think that would be the absolute best. Colorado had a 5-0 victory over the Chicago Blackhawks on Friday at home, and now what's ahead for the Colorado Avalanche is they play all the California teams. Starting Sunday, they get Anaheim, LA on Monday, San Jose on Thursday, and then the matchup I mentioned, against the St. Louis Blues at home, final Saturday of the regular season. Can we have that, please? That is our request. We'd like to see that on the final day of the regular season. Colorado hosting St. Louis. Winner gets to go to the Stanley Cup playoffs. That would be a fantastic way to end the regular season. As I mentioned, Colorado with the victory over the Chicago Blackhawks on Friday night. The Hawks on Friday had Colin Delia in goal for the game against Colorado. Another shout out, though, to the accountant turned goaltender, Scott Foster. What a great story that was from Thursday. Hawks were hosting the Winnipeg Jets at home, and they ran into a shortage of goaltenders. This was a rule that was recently implemented by the NHL, is that every game has to have an emergency goaltender on site and available to suit up for either team should injuries result in a shortage of goaltenders. So Anton Forsberg gets hurt in the warm-up. Colin Delia, who's supposed to back up, he gets the tap on the shoulder, says, guess what? You're going in, you're starting, and plays until the third period. When he gets injured and makes way for emergency goaltender Scott Foster, the puck-stopping accountant. Love it. He comes in, 7 shots at him, makes 7 saves. The crowd is cheering. The crowd at Chicago Stadium, the United Center, is chanting his name, and they make him the first star of the game. Good for you. Absolutely. There was a great story that came out yesterday that is followed up on this, and I don't know what's next, but I suspect there is more ahead for Scott Foster, emergency goaltender, full-time accountant, part-time goaltender. The Chicago Steel of the USHL have offered him a position as an emergency accountant. And I guess that's sort of important at this time of year. It's closing in on the end of tax season in the United States. It's the middle of April. It's a little later in Canada, but he can't play with the Chicago Steel because he's aged out. He's over the age limit, but that's a cool story. That's a really cool story, and I hope we hear more about it. Yeah, we need an emergency accountant. I love that. That's great. Good for you. Other Friday night stuff, other game action that I was kind of interested in was the freeway face-off game. Now, every game between the Los Angeles Kings and the Anaheim Ducks is billed this way. As the freeway face-off, they're in close proximity in terms of geography. They're just down the interstate from one another. It's a short hike, well, short by LA and Southern California traffic standards. But they build every game as the freeway face-off, and this matchup between the Kings in Anaheim to take on the Ducks, this is what I will point to, and I have pointed to a couple of times as this NHL season has gone along, as a great example of a good low-scoring games. There's some dogs. There's some really bad dogs, not the good HU dog of the day dogs, but some bad dogs of games that are low-scoring. But this was a good one. 2 on the final. Ricky Raquel, OT winner, shot through the defenseman's legs, gets by Jonathan Quick. So 2-1, the Anaheim Ducks get the victory. It's an awesome game. It goes right down to the final sex of overtime. A couple of things about this one. Both teams had lots of chances throughout, which is what you want. That's what will help make for an exciting low-scoring game. If there are chances to score by both teams, not just one, but both teams. Both goaltenders were great. Made really good saves, kept their team in it, gave their team a chance to win, which is what you want. The hype, the build-up to these games and other geographical rivalry games is so often built on hatred. We'll get into more about this a little bit later on because Calgary and Edmonton are playing this evening. But you hear the big build-up in terms of the teasers that lead up to the game and then the opening and the television and radio montages. Oh, these two teams, they don't like each other very much. They hate each other. And, oh, this one could get out of hand tonight. You never know what's going to happen when these two teams face off against one another. And as I'm watching the game, they show the video from past matchups where there's fights and there's one team fighting the other. And this is just the stereotypical build-up to this sort of game. Sometimes it does occur. Last time the Kings and the Ducks played, there were 3 fights that, well, took about 4 seconds because every time they dropped the puck, 2 guys dropped the gloves. It happened the last time. It's garbage and it makes me crazy. But in this game, So much on the line for both teams. Fighting for playoff position. They were battling for third spot in the Pacific. Anaheim, with the 2-1 overtime victory, comes out on top. They are in third spot in the Pacific Division right now. In this game, with so much on the line, rugged, physical, hard, great chances at both ends, great play by the goaltenders, great setups for potential goals. LA and Anaheim play nearly 65 minutes, yes, including the overtime, penalty-free. 0 calls, 0 man advantage for either team, and it was some of the best hockey played all season. It was fantastic to watch. It was low scoring. There were chances. It was fun. So what do I take from this? You can do this all the time. There's no need for the garbage and the nonsense. You can do this all the time. This notion that you have to hate your opponent and you can't have hard physical play without penalties and fights is completely false. And this game proves it. Oh, yes, it wasn't a no-hitter. Over 50 hits in this game. 0 penalties. Lots of hard physical play. Players looking to find room, trying to get in front of the net, going for the goal, going hard to the net. No problem. Could there have been a couple of penalties called? Perhaps. Could there have been a couple of offsetting penalties called? Perhaps. I don't think the referees let things get out of hand. I think they handled it well. There's no reason to call penalties in this one. It was a great game. Low-scoring game. Hard physical hockey. Good checks. Players going for the front of the net. No problem. 0 penalties. Another interesting late game. The St. Louis Blues had a winning streak of 6 going into the contest against the Vegas Golden Knights. Golden Knights host the San Jose Sharks on Saturday night. If they get a single point in that game, they will lock up top spot in the Pacific. Now, the Vegas Golden Knights got a victory in OT against the St. Louis Blues. The Blues winning streak comes to an end, but good for them. Good for Vegas. Found a way to win. One more point. They'll lock up top spot in the Pacific. I think we're all past the let's going gaga about this is a new team, this is an expansion team. We can't believe what they've done. I think you better be past that now, or you're going to get rolled by them if you're an opponent. They don't have a bunch of high-priced talent. They play together. They play structured. They play disciplined, and that's what makes them successful. And they've been doing it all season long. Can they do it in the playoffs? I am intrigued to see if this happens or not. Home ice advantage may help, and winning the Pacific, having home ice advantage for a goodly run in the postseason, that may help. But it might not be necessary for Vegas. I want to see who their opponent is in the first round before you do the obligatory predictions, and we will next week, but predictions are what they are. It could go well for Vegas, or it could work against them. I'm not sure how I come down on Vegas yet and what they're going to do in the playoffs, but I think it's going to be interesting. Interesting that the Vegas Knights have also attempted to skew their home audience in terms of a big home ice advantage. They have asked all their fans to take the Knights pledge, and what that means is they have enrolled them all their season ticket holders in a StubHub official partner plan that if you want to resell your tickets, you go through them, but it will be costly. Stay in the plan, and you get cheaper season tickets. It's an interesting way to do it, as opposed to simply saying, well, we're not going to allow sales to outside areas. I think it's kind of an interesting way to do it. But a lot to be decided over the final week of the NHL season. I'm really hoping Colorado and St. Louis comes down to the final Saturday. Those two teams playing head-to-head. The winner gets into the postseason. That would be the best possible setup. It could happen. Could happen that one could get in with simply a point, but it would be nice if it's winner gets 2 points and gets in the postseason. We'll see if that lines up next week. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Sports Twitter and Instagram handles. And that's where we're looking for your Dog of the Day nominations today. Yes, hashtag is HU Dog of the Day. Send us photo via Twitter, via Instagram of your dog. Tell us your name, your dog's name. And if there's a good story of how you two came together, we'd like to hear that too. We like to honor great dogs and do it every Saturday. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Sports, hashtag is HU Dog of the Day. Send us your photos. Tell us your story. Maybe you'll be the dog of the day. And the photo will go up on our Facebook page, our website, our Instagram account, and wherever else we can put it as well. Busy show, lots to get to. Sean Leahy from NBC Sports Pro-Hockey Talk. John Walton, radio voice of the Washington Capitals, will join us. Josh Smith this hour on lots to talk about in terms of NHL officiating. And Hannah Bevis with a wrap-up of the women's hockey season. The championships were a week ago. Where do we go from here? We'll talk to her about that right after the break. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back in 2.5 minutes.
There's special savings for Hockey Unfiltered listeners with our new ticket partner, Seat Giant. And Canadian fans can also purchase in Canadian dollars. Go to seatgiant.ca, find the tickets you're looking for. Doesn't matter if it's NHL games, concerts, or any other event. You get a special discount with the promo code TODD. That's Todd with 2 D's. Just enter the code, get the discount, you save. That's simple. Save on your next ticket purchase with Hockey Unfiltered and Seat Giant. The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Search engine optimization is the key to success for your online business. It can be the key to success for any business. 1-844-SEO-LEAD is the number to call to get your business at the top of all searches. An official partner of Google, they have the tools necessary to make your business the one people notice first. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now you can nominate your dog or any dog you love as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day through Instagram. Every Saturday, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis will take your nominations for the Dog of the Day. Use the hashtag #HUDogoftheDay. Send us a photo with the dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate your dog. We choose a winner at the end of the show, and your dog will be recognized in the HU Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova product design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova product design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova product design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova product design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more.
Welcome back. This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Saturday edition. Here Saturdays and Sundays, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific at hockeyunfiltered.com, streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, all powered by Primetime Radio. Sean Leahy from NBC Sports Pro-Hockey Talk coming up. John Walton, radio voice of the Washington Capitals, will be with us. Josh Smith from scoutingtherefs.com, all coming up on the program. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. Want to take a second to look back a few days on the conclusions of the Women's Hockey League Championships, the CWHL, the NWHL. Hannah Bevis is the managing editor of the Ice Garden, also a contributor to the athletic.com for women's hockey. You can follow her on Twitter at Hannah_Bevis1. She was great when she was with us a while back. Fun discussion, good information, and how can we not have her back? Hannah, thanks for the time again today. And it was an exciting conclusion. Let's start with the CWHL, who had an overtime victory from Markham to conclude their season a week ago.
Yeah, it was a really dramatic game for them. Markham and Cumberland in the final, which I don't think a lot of people expected. Montreal and Calgary were definitely the favorites to make the finals. But it was a really close back-and-forth game, kind of a goaltender battle with Nora Ross to net for the Cumberland Red Star and Laura Stacey with the overtime winner, which was just like a really good ending for Markham's season as a whole.
The other women's hockey league, the NWHL, also has concluded their season, which was nice. It was kind of interesting and I think a little bit difficult in that both finals were concluded a week ago.
Mm-hmm. And that they were at the same time.
Yeah.
Or...
Well, and it's just I go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure. Are you talking about the fact that both finals were at the same time, or that we're looking back at a week ago?
No, I'm looking back that both finals were at the same time, and which leads me to the other question: is we still have two leagues, and I think that's too many.
Yeah. There's been a lot of people that have been talking about the fact that if you're a women's hockey fan, it feels like you have to choose just because the CWHL is more focused in Canada, the NWHL is more focused in the U.S., and we've been hearing a lot of one league talk from players and media especially.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of taken away from both championships as well.
Yeah, it definitely is. That's something that it was brought up. I went to the Clarkson Cup in Toronto, and in the post game, Brenda Andrews came and talked to media, and that was one of the questions. Was talking about the one league situation, and she didn't want to take away from what was happening on the day. You know, the players who won the championship, and rightfully so. But you know, it's something that really leading up to the playoffs, that was the spotlight, not so much actual championship game. So I agree with you.
Yeah, and I think that's unfortunate, but I think it's also the reality is that there are a lot of great women's hockey players, and we're seeing them. But the unfortunate part is the talent is spread too thin. There isn't enough room, I don't believe, for both women's hockey leagues. Do you agree, or tell me that I'm wrong?
I do think there's room for two leagues. It's tricky when you're talking about combining into one league. What the players have been saying overwhelmingly is that they want one league because they do want all of the talent in one place. Because what we saw in both leagues this year with the Olympics going on is all the national team players who were in both the CWHL and the NWHL went to centralized. So they weren't in those leagues anymore. And honestly, for me, we had one of the more exciting years in recent memories because players who stepped up and filled in those spots that were available really showcased the talent that they had. And these are still players who are, you know, working part-time. So, you know, it's another conversation entirely to talk about if we can pay players a living wage. But for me, the fact that we were able to still see a really competitive two leagues this year in an Olympic year shows that there's plenty of room for these players. I think the issue becomes, you know, if this is going to be the discussion, if the spotlight is going to be on, oh, well, we need one league instead of the players, then maybe that's something that we take a look at. And also, I think with Cassie Campbell's comments, she's kind of been the one leading this one league charge. If the NHL gets involved, is that they've said that if they were to, you know, kind of give women's hockey a boost or whatever it would be, it would need to be one league, not two. So if you're looking for support from the NHL, that's what needs to happen.
Yeah, and that's the NHL's, you know, politically correct answer to try to stay away from any sort of controversy, because you already have a team in the CWHL that has aligned with an NHL team, and you have the same thing in the NWHL in terms of the Buffalo franchise that has aligned with an NHL team. So there's an openness to it, and whether it's affiliated with teams and even bringing them under a league ownership is one thing, but it just seems that we have with the two leagues, they're not working in unison, even if there are going to be two leagues.
Yeah, and the thing with the NHL too is like teams from a team level, this has been happening for years. It's not something that's new. So the Toronto Maple Leafs are with the Furies. The two Montreal teams, the NHL and the CWHL, have been working together. Calgary, the Ottawa Senators don't have a women's team in their area, but they hosted the Clarkson Cup for the last couple of years, not this year, but the 2 years prior. And Eula Sports owns the Buttes now. We have the partnership with the Devils. There has been a connection with the NHL and women's leagues for several years. And so I think if the NHL were to get involved now we're talking about at a league level, talking resources, talking money. What's interesting to me is that we're just hearing this conversation now. You know, we only want one league if we're going to help. The CWHL was the only league in women's hockey for years before the NWHL came around in 2015. So I'm not sure why we weren't having that conversation then, especially after Sochi and the success we had with the gold medal game there.
Yeah, and you're right. It's just I think it's generating attention now because, you know, as you said, we had the best players from both leagues who are competing in the Olympics for Canada, USA, and it's almost like we have Canada, USA competing in terms of women's hockey leagues. Maybe there is an opportunity for both of them to work together to help expand and grow women's hockey, because it's a terrific game. It's a fun game to watch. But the two leagues don't seem to want to work together themselves right now.
I don't think the two leagues as they are now would be willing to work together. That might be something that maybe the players force their hands, because both players' associations have been very vocal about wanting one league. The two commissioners, as far as I know, have not really been necessarily. They don't openly dislike each other, but they don't really seem inclined to work together. Although a lot of fans have been calling for maybe a crossover game of the two championship teams, if we could get the Markham Thunder and the New York Riveters in a big championship game. Maybe that could be a step in the right direction. So if we do see some collaboration between the two, maybe that's the first step.
Yeah, I'm especially since, as you talked about with the Olympics, we had a tremendous gold medal game with the U.S. winning and defeating Canada for the first time in 20 years. We had a lot of attention and support, understandably, on the women's championship games. Now the season is over, and I think everybody's kind of asking, and I'm asking, is, okay, so where do we go from here? How do we take the next steps to grow the women's game, to grow the leagues, to make it stronger, so that players can get paid more money as opposed to the pennies that they're getting right now?
I think ultimately it's going to come down to resources, and that's why I think the NHL option looks so appealing, because if you partner with a league that has so many resources and so much money and is financially so successful, you immediately kind of give yourself a boost that the women's leagues don't have right now. But it doesn't have to necessarily come from the NHL. You know, anything that's already got a structure in place, whatever that might look like, is an option. But I mean, there is a lot of conversation right now. So I think, you know, if media coverage starts to improve because of this gold medal game, or we're kind of starting to see that already, you know, but if we can continue to improve that and grow that. But I think as far as improving conditions for the players who are already playing now, it comes down to resources.
Yeah, is it an awareness thing that the leagues have to do to work with the media to create awareness and of what their players are bringing to the league and how great a game it is? Is that the next step?
I think yes, awareness needs to improve, but I don't think that's on the leagues to necessarily do it, especially because, you know, they're stretched so thin in the front office already. I think a lot of this is on the media too, to reach out and say, hey, this is something that we want to invest in covering. What can we do? How do we get credentials? Where do we send our reporters? Can you direct us to the right people to try and get in contact? For me, it also comes down to media people being proactive, especially those who are in mainstream.
Yeah, it's a bit of a chicken and the egg argument, though, is that there has to be a captivating story to tell as before it's going to be investigated, and you have to make them aware that there is a captivating story.
Mm-hmm. And that's the argument we hear from basically women's coverage in general. And I think a lot of that is because people don't either know it exists or are only recently discovering it. But that's I don't know how to say it. It's not something that's going to be solved overnight for sure. But
no, absolutely. But I think it's worthy of attention because the quality of the game is good, and there's a bunch of great stories in terms of the women that are involved playing it in both the NWHL and the CWHL.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, I mean, this year's two championships were so dramatic. With the Markham Thunder and Kunlun, that storyline of, you know, neither team really expected to be there. Kunlun's in its first year as an expansion team in China, and the kind of controversy that surrounded them all year, and the talent that they have. And then in the NWHL, the New York Riveters and Buffalo Beauts, both being the favorites all year and just really putting on a show. Harrison Brown's been a great story in there. The Riveters core four, who have been there for so long, finally winning a championship. You know, there are plenty of storylines in these leagues for sure that are definitely worth covering. It just is a matter of who's going to write the story first.
Hannah Bevis, the managing editor of the Ice Garden, also women's hockey contributor to The Athletic, at Hannah_Bevis1 is how you follow her on Twitter. Hannah, thank you for the time again today. We appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll be talking more about women's hockey in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Love being on.
Appreciate it. Hannah Bevis covering the CWHL, the NWHL finals. I don't know if you have to have one league, but you have to have at least the two leagues working in cooperation to help grow the game, to make the game better. Maybe it is better if there's one league. I don't know, but there's talented hockey players in both leagues. more attention would be great. The Riveters story is a terrific one that Hannah mentioned. The Riveters that started and struggled and had trouble winning games, and the culminate now a few years later with the championship. That is a pretty terrific story. And of course, the expansion team that you mentioned, Cundon, going all the way to the finals of the CWHL. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, Twitter and Instagram handles. Ref Report, hashtag Ref Report, coming up in our next segment. Our friend Josh Smith from ScoutingTheRefs.com will join us. Sean Leahy from NBC Sports Pro-Hockey Talk coming up later on in the program, as well as John Walton, the voice of the Washington Capitals. It's a busy Saturday, a dozen games on the go, some good matchups, some others, not so much, but that's what you're going to get at this time of the league. We'll dive into that, some other stories from this past week, from last night in some of the games, and we'll cross our fingers hoping that Colorado and St. Louis meet a week from today and play for the final spot out west. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back with more after the break.
The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova Product Design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova Product Design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Being on the World Wide Web is great. Being found is the tricky part. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization is the only way your business can get a leg up on the competition. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. For the necessary tools to make your business stand out in a crowded marketplace, 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday.
Welcome back. It's the Saturday edition, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, here Saturdays and Sundays, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. That's where we're looking for your nominations for the Dog of the Day, hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo via Twitter, via Instagram. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day and tell us why your dog should be the Dog of the Day. Include your name, dog's name, if there's a good story. Love the working dogs, love the service dogs. We honor them with their photo going up on our Facebook page, up on our website as well. Lots to get into on a busy Saturday with a dozen games. Playoff positions can be clinched, lots to be played for. And of course, supervising it all, the men in stripes, our friend Josh Smith from the great website, ScoutingTheRefs.com. Check it out later on. He'll have all the officiating lineups for all of the games throughout the day. You can follow him on Twitter at Scouting the Refs. And Josh, a couple of things before we really dive into the rules stuff. Congratulations to Don Jackson, who is retiring from active duty as a referee, and to Shane Heyer as well, who's also stepping away from the game. Both have had long and very good careers in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's these guys have been around forever. We've seen those two retire. Mark Wheeler a little bit earlier this season, and then Tom Cowell's last day is today. He'll be working this afternoon up in Boston and calling it a career after that. So some very tenured officials, some very experienced veteran guys hanging up the skates after this season. I want to thank them all for great careers, and it opens the door. Some new guys coming up, some new opportunities for the younger officials. So it's the changing of the guard. But congratulations for sure to those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about NHL players who play long careers, whether it's 800, 900, 1,000, 1,500 games. Officials, the same thing. They work a very rigorous schedule as well. And you forget the wear and tear that some of these guys go through. But we have seen examples of it recently with Steve Miller, who was cut by a skate not that long ago, and also Steve Barton, who had that awful collision, purely accidental, with Connor McDavid a couple of days ago as well. The officials are out on the ice, and they take a beating sometimes.
Oh, they absolutely do. I mean, you need to be on top of the action to see it, but you never want to get involved in it. These are the professionals. These are the best in the world. I know some people get frustrated with NHL officials, but there are no better hockey officials than the ones working in the NHL. And, even the most prepared, most veteran, most experienced officials still find themselves getting caught up in the play once in a while. I mean, Derek Hamel almost took a puck off the head the other night in New York. He ducked to get out of the way, collided with one of the Rangers defensemen. So a potentially scary situation. Nobody was injured on that one. But, you forget how tough it is to be out there, especially when you're not padded from head to toe like the players are.
Yeah, I love it. Was on Twitter. I think you were either commenting or retweeting about the Steve Barton incident too, that you were using that as a teaching moment in terms of how to better officiate. If something that's you're looking at how to position yourself when the play is coming towards you and being prepared for it. There's always an opportunity to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you want to be aware of the players, aware of the puck, and you never want to turn your back on the action or the puck if you can help it. And I know one of the officiating associations took it upon themselves to say, hey, what can we learn from this? And let's make sure all our guys see this. And it's funny because that's what the NHL does with a lot of the plays that we see, and a lot of the ones that we don't even critique, is that they're sending it out to the officials and saying, hey, guys, what did we do right? What did we do wrong on this play? And what can we learn from it? So from, top down, it's great to have video to be able to take those examples of good plays, bad plays, and dangerous plays and learn from them.
Josh Smith is our guest from scoutingtherefs.com. The website at scoutingtherefs is how you follow him on Twitter. Okay, let's go into the story over the last week or two that goes back to the NHL general managers meetings, the discussions, the presentations, the video, the spreadsheets of statistics, and the decision to make the change of reviewing goaltender interference. It will now, the final determination, come from the Situation Room in Toronto in consultation with the officials on the ice and with a former official in the Situation Room. Was this something that was welcomed by the NHL referees? Was it kind of, okay, you want to try it this way, we'll agree to it, and with the stipulation that we put one of our people or our former NHL referees in the office as well? How did this all come together and the officials sign off on it?
Well, from the guys that I've talked to and from what I've heard, everybody was in favor of it. They all were looking for a way, if it's consistent, if this makes the call more consistent, if this helps everybody understand it and interpret it better, then they're all in favor of it. I mean, I know some people were heavily critiquing the officials on, you don't want to overturn your own call. And I think in all cases, they're not concerned whether they're overturning their own call. They just want to get it right. So it comes down to interpretation. And if this tightens up the interpretation to a handful of retired officials that are currently officiating managers that are in that room helping make the call, and everyone's happy with that consistency, then I think they're all in favor of it. At least the guys I've spoke to have been. So it'll be a different procedure. I mean, they're still calling up to the Situation Room. They'll tell them it was a goal on the ice, it was no goal on the ice, and then it's in the hands of the guys in the Situation Room, and then one of the veteran officials, like a guy like Paul Dvorsky, Don Koharski, Bill McCreary, Rob Schick, among them, that will be in the room weighing in on that decision and ultimately making the final call.
For the sake of argument, I will take a slightly different view on it. I'm not sure that this will change the consistency of the call, because I think referees were pretty consistent. I think the biggest difficulty is that there's not a greater explanation of why the call is made, either by the official on the ice or postscript by the league through social media or on their website. And I think what we may ultimately get from this is we'll just have a different person to blame when we disagree with the call.
Well, I think you're onto something there. I think that's where we're at. And the only hope that I have is that by having a smaller group of guys involved in it, that they can tighten up and work amongst themselves to really define it, because everyone critiques the officials. And I come back to the rule book and say, if you want these guys to be consistent, write a rule that can be interpreted consistently. There's offside is pretty black and white. You're offside, you're onside, the puck was over, the puck wasn't. There's a few interpretations, very little there. On goaltender interference, you've got the crease. You've got, was the guy pushed in? Did he go in on his own? Did he go in and not get out in time? Did he not make an attempt to get out? There's so many factors that I think it's really hard to find a handful of examples that would apply. Every situation is different, and you're always going to get that subjectivity, even with a smaller group. So we can hope that this is the first step in trying to clean up the rule and maybe tighten it up across the board. But I agree with where you're coming from, and I think we'll still have people challenging the consistency of the calls into the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I think they may not be as vocal, because I suspect there was a suggestion made in quiet to GMs and coaches. Maybe you don't want to be so vocal in your criticisms of this, but we'll wait and see. The other thing is that, so the rule defining goaltender interference, I forget if it's 3 or 4 pages long, but I will go back to scoutingtherefs.com and check it in the rule book as soon as I can. But are there areas that you know in the rule book that you can shorten the definitions, make them more specific, items that we can do to clean up this rule a bit?
I mean, people will be frustrated with it either way, because you hear fans that get frustrated that hitting is coming out of the game or that fighting's out of the game. And if you take rules and interpret it and revise it so that any contact with the goalie would result in the goal being waved off, forget who initiated it, any contact. And you know, the argument would be that goalies would take advantage of that and run into guys.
Yeah.
So tough there. You look at what the International Hockey Federation does with their rule book, and you go in the crease, they blow the whistle, face off. You know, that would clear things up. I don't think fans would be happy with it, but it'd be consistent, because you'd have a heck of a lot of whistles and a lot of face-offs until these guys learned. I don't know if that's the game the NHL wants to have. They want to have that pressure. So it's hard to find the way to tweak it to make everyone happy and still let teams drive to the net. I was talking to someone in officiating capacity who made a comment to me that, you know, our goaltender interference calls aren't any less consistent or any worse than they've been all year. Goals are at a premium. Teams are pushing for the playoffs, so they're valuing each goal more and more, and they're more likely to challenge it because it's worth more at this point in the season. And that only goes up in the playoffs. So I think from a rule standpoint, there's opportunities to do it. But whenever you have a low-scoring game or a low-scoring sport, and each goal is worth as much as it is, you know, it's a worthwhile gamble to challenge. So yeah. I don't envy the league's position, but I think that they really should take a long look in the off season and find some ways to either tighten it or just make certain things black and white and say, when this happens, this is what we do. You might not like it, but that's how we can be more consistent.
Yeah, we're in a sense, we're searching for an impossible solution. As you said it right, is we will never please everyone on every call. And I think that's certainly the goal you want, but understand as well that is an impossibility that you're seeking. Again, for the sake of discussion, what if you introduced, say, during the preseason, the European rule or the international rule where if you go in the crease, the play is blown dead? Would we, in a sense, have a couple of months of lots of whistles, lots of face-offs, but the players would understand and learn and adapt over maybe a couple of months, much like they did this season with the crackdown and greater emphasis on slashing?
I think they would. I think it'd be frustrating for some guys. I think you'd see some players' careers take a dramatic turn when you take that tool away from them as far as crashing the crease. I think the most likely possibility would be to see it introduced at the AHL level and have them run with it for a little while the NHL watches, sees how it plays out, and then implement it. You know, they'd like to test things, but I don't think they're looking forward to making that dramatic of a change at the NHL level. But I wouldn't rule it out. I just think that they, from what I've heard from officials and folks in the league, you know, they don't want to tone the game down that much. They want to tighten it up, but they don't necessarily want to change the ability of teams to drive to the net.
Would the other possibility be then the change in terms of how you challenge, like they did with offside, that if you're unsuccessful, that you get a 2-minute minor penalty, because that cut down on the number of challenges dramatically this year?
Absolutely. And while I hadn't heard anything come out of the GM's meetings about that, that is the next logical step to me is we've penalized offside challenges. Let's do the same thing for goaltender interference. If you feel strongly enough about it, then you're going to challenge. And if you don't, or if it's a Hail Mary attempt to just maybe we got a shot at getting this goal called back, maybe you give that a second thought because you don't want to end up shorthanded. So logically, that's the next step for me as far as turning down the number of goaltender interference challenges.
Josh Smith is our guest from scoutingtherefs.com. At scoutingtherefs is how you follow him on Twitter, talking about the NHL Goaltenders Challenge, how it might make it a little bit better. A couple other things I want to ask you about, Josh, too, while I've got you, is there was a great game last night between the LA Kings and the Anaheim Ducks. 2-1. Anaheim wins it in overtime. Two big, strong teams that play a physical game, and there was plenty of hitting in this one. There were over 50 hits in the game. It was also penalty-free. Now, the last time these two teams played, they had fight after fight after fight in a matter of seconds. Do officials look at the previous matchups as they're getting set to officiate a game like last night and understand the dynamic of what's at stake and what goes in? Is that part of their preparation?
It absolutely is. You know, you're having pregame meetings and meals and talking about the teams, talking about the guys. You know, where did things spark up last time? Which guys do we have to watch out for? What are the hot spots? And they're discussing that and figuring it out all ahead of time. And no doubt that going into that game, it was a veteran crew working last night too. It hires last game. So a good group of guys and guys not afraid to set the tone early and say, hey, this is where the line is. This is where we're going to call and not call. You guys keep it clean. We're going to let you play the game. And that's exactly what happened. So, yeah, they absolutely knew what they were getting into going in and set the tone. And the way you do that without calling penalties, and McCauley's working the game, he's one of the best. You let the guys know where the line is. Hey, do that again. You're going to the box. Let's keep it clean out here. And they did. Surprisingly and amazingly for those two clubs, it was a penalty-free night, and it was fair. You know, you look at that. Is somebody getting an advantage? Is somebody at risk of getting hurt? Is there an injury situation? And if not, and if you're not looking at a big gain or advantage from it, then play on, boys.
Yeah, and I guess it comes back to something that we've talked about a couple of times before too, is that communication between the officials out on the ice, that yes, this check is okay, but you're getting close to the line, whether it's a cross check, whether it's a body check in terms of position. That's the thing that has to be taken into account, is there's a great deal of communication, and fans don't always get to see or hear that from the NHL refs and the linesmen.
Absolutely, and that's the only way you get a game like we saw there, or a low call game. And, you know, take guys like McCauley, Kelly Sutherland, they're yapping the entire game long. But if they set the tone, they let the guys know in the first period what to expect and what's going to get a call, and they're consistent the whole game, which it looked like those guys really were consistent in the things they were letting go. It worked out well for everybody. But yes, unusual.
And yeah, and just one more quick one before I let you go, because I know I've kept you a long time. But the other thing is that we've heard so much about teams and the intensity that ramps up as they're trying desperately to make the playoffs. Does that same kind of intensity apply to the officials out on the ice? Because after next weekend, there's going to be a bunch of guys who aren't working anymore, and they're going to be officials as well as players that are disappointed they're not moving on to the postseason.
Oh, absolutely. It's tough for those guys, but I think at this point, just like you said, the teams that are out of playoff contention, the decisions are more or less made as far as who's moving on and who's not. But it's tough for the guys, and it's tough to get that news that, you know, your season's ending. You know, you get a nice check for continuing on, and you obviously were competitive guys. You want to keep working those games, so it is tough, and there's certainly that push, but for those guys, it's all year long. It's building up to it, and then at this point you're hoping that your name gets called and you're working the postseason.
Yeah. Josh Smith, our friend from scoutingtherefs.com. At scoutingtherefs is how you follow him on Twitter. Always learn stuff when we talk, Josh. I really appreciate the time, and undoubtedly we'll be asking you back again soon.
Sounds good. Talk with you soon, Todd.
Appreciate it. Josh Smith from scoutingtherefs.com. If you want to go to read the actual rule in terms of goaltender interference and the definition and how it's supposed to be applied, it is pages long. And the NHL rulebook, of course, is available through scoutingtherefs.com. And Josh will have the lineups of officials that are working all of the games that get going with afternoon action, Florida and Boston. We'll talk about that and some of the other contests. Also coming up, Sean Leahy will join us. John Walton, the radio voice of the Washington Capitals, coming up as well. It is a busy Saturday. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd. Back with much more after the break.
So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. We'll problem? All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff, the Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Nova Product Design is designed for manufacturing. Nova Product Design can get the job done with mechanical and industrial design. Nova Product Design is also fully functional for laser cutting, water jet cutting, plating, coatings, and more. Nova Product Design, innovative design and the latest technologies. Nova Product Design can design, build, and test any required types of prototypes and beta units. Visit novaproductdesign.com. We're looking for your Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day nominations every Saturday. Now you can send them through Instagram. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo of your dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate them as the HU Dog of the Day. Include your name, the dog's name, and any other cool details you want. We choose a winner and add them to the Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day.
Man, this first hour is sailing by. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, Saturday edition here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific at hockeyunfiltered.com, streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, Facebook Live, on Periscope, on YouTube Live, all powered by Primetime Radio, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. That's where we're looking for your nominations for the Dog of the Day, hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo. Tell us your dog's story, your name, your dog's name, how you came together. We like to recognize great dogs and do so every Saturday. Coming up on this busy Saturday with 12 games on the schedule, our friend Sean Leahy from NBC Sports Pro-Hockey Talk. We always kind of whip around the league, talk about all the big stories that are going on, some interesting matchups on this Saturday. And also, John Walton, radio play-by-play voice of the Washington Capitals, will join us. We'll talk a little Caps and what remains of their schedule. The Washington Capitals fell on Friday night to the Carolina Hurricanes 4-1. It's early action with the Boston Bruins getting going. It's back-to-back afternoon games for the Bees. They are at home hosting the Florida Panthers on Saturday, and then hightail it to Philadelphia for an early one against the Philadelphia Flyers on Sunday afternoon. Florida, man, they have got a schedule going down the stretch. Give them credit for battling and fighting and working as hard as they have, but I don't know. They just may be going to come up a little bit short. Winnipeg is in Toronto. It's a 7:00 Eastern start. There's some that are suggesting, this could be a Stanley Cup preview. I guess it could, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. There's some big steps that both of those teams are going to have to take before either of them gets into the Stanley Cup final. But I guess, it's nice for the Canadian markets to think, there's a good Canadian team in the West and there's a good Canadian team in the East, and maybe it would be cool and maybe it would be neat if they managed to find their way into the Stanley Cup final. Yeah, I guess it kind of would. Maple Leafs had kind of a messy game against the New York Islanders on Friday night. Messy is often the story when it's the Islanders and defense involved. Toronto wins 4-3. Austin Matthews as the game winner. Mitch Marner, his point streak continues, and everyone is titillating about that. The Toronto media going crazy about the possibilities for the future. How are they going to sign Marner and Nylander and Matthews? Oh my gosh, they all need contracts. How are we going to be able to afford it? Then there's James Van Riemsdyk, who's having an unbelievable season, and he's a UFA at the end of the season. Relax. Breathe. Take it easy. Don't make problems where there aren't necessarily. You have a boatload of talent. The other good news, there's more on the way, Maple Leafs fans. Relax. I think the guys in charge in Toronto, Brendan Shanahan, Lou Lamoriello, Mike Babcock, I think they got things under control. There's no need to whip yourself into a bit of hysteria. Just relax. Everything is good. Everything is good there. It's fine. The other bit of media mania that, of course, takes place is, well, the Maple Leafs played the Islanders, and is this possibly the last time that the Toronto Maple Leafs will be facing off against John Tavares as a member of the New York Islanders? What are you going to do? He's a UFA. Yeah, he'll figure it out. He'll tell you. Credit to JT for keeping his mind focused on the task at hand all season long. There has been a ridiculous amount of wild speculation and talk, and much of it coming out of people's butts. But he has maintained his focus all season long. He has had another great year on a not very good team, but he's maintained his intensity, his desire, and he's going to wait until later on in the summer as we get into the discussion period and the negotiation period, or whatever the heck you want to call it. And he's going to listen to teams, and he's going to decide on his future. And when he does, he'll let you know. Bob McKenzie from TSN pretty much said that. He expects him to go to market. He's going to listen. This is going to be Steven Stamkos 2.0. I've said this previously. Stamkos, the pending unrestricted free agent a couple of years ago. Is he going to sign? Is he going to sign? Is he going to not sign? What's going to happen? Is he going to leave? All the hysteria about him possibly going to Toronto or some other places. And it's been very much the same for John Tavares. Said he was going to wait and gather all the information he could and make the best choice for him. His first choice is to stay with the Islanders. He's been consistent in his message all season. So once the season is over, I'm sure he will have some discussions immediately, exit meetings and the like with the New York Islanders. Garth Snow, is he going to be the general manager? Doug Waite, is he going to be the coach? Give me some more information about this new building. How many games are we going to be playing on Long Island? How many games are we going to be playing in Brooklyn? He's going to make a crap load of money wherever he goes. That's not a concern. He's making a lot of money anywhere he goes. It's all the other stuff that Tavares needs to know before he decides where he's playing hockey next season and beyond. And once he's allowed to have those discussions and gather that information, then he'll make his choice. Oh, that will drive people crazy if it goes much past July the 1st. It will make people nuts. I almost want him to do it. Just because of all the wild, hysterical speculation that'll result. There will be people flinging poo at walls left, right, and center, seeing if they can guess something that's right. But good for Tavares for shutting all the noise out through the season and having himself a really good year, because the Islanders haven't been a really good team for a lot of the year. Defense, yeah, they need help on defense, but they need goaltending too. And I think that'll be part of the discussions that play into John Tavares and making his decision as to where he is going to play hockey next season and beyond. Is it with the Islanders? I kind of like it to be, just because I think it would be cool for him to play his whole career with one team, hopefully having some success in the future in the playoffs and maybe playing for a Stanley Cup. But it might not be the best thing for him. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports Twitter and Instagram handles. 1 hour done, 1 hour to go. Hour number 2 of the program coming up right after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Look, we know it happens. Life gets in the way and sometimes you can't catch the live edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. But we've made it easy for you to catch up on the show you might have missed. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis is available as a podcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Blog Talk Radio. You don't want to miss an episode. If you missed the live show, check out the podcast. Don't miss any shows. There's a test coming up later. Subscribe now. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Use the code Get the Savings. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis listeners save with SeatGiant and the promo code TODD. That's TODD at SeatGiant.com. Just log on to SeatGiant.com to find the best tickets to NHL games, concerts, or whatever you want and save. Use the promo code TODD. That's TODD when you check out and you save. Canadian listeners can save at SeatGiant.ca. That's SeatGiant.com and .ca. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more.
This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
Yeah, here we go. Hour number 2 of the Saturday program. We'll, of course, be back again tomorrow, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, live at hockeyunfiltered.com, streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app. A busy hour number 2 coming up. John Leahy from NBC Sports Pro-Hockey Talk will join us. We'll kind of dance around the league, look at the East, look at the West. Some pretty cool stories. Good time of year. Just over a week left in the NHL season. Good matchups today. Looking down the stretch, the final week. Oh, it could be a lot of fun. One of those teams involved that we'll be giving some attention to, the Washington Capitals. Hey, look, Washington and Pittsburgh, two old friends tangling on Sunday. Sunday evening, actually. The Caps will be in Pittsburgh to take on the Penguins. John Walton is the radio play-by-play voice of the Caps Radio Network. John Walton will join us in this hour as well. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. That's where we're looking for your nominations for the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. Send them to us via Twitter, via Instagram. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We pick a winner every Saturday. We like to recognize great dogs. Tell us your name, your dog's name. If there's a good story of how you two came to become family members together, we're interested in that as well. Photo will go up on our website, go up on our Facebook page. We like to recognize great dogs and do it every Saturday. Oh, yeah, it's a good time of year. As mentioned, it's a busy Saturday with 12 games. There were some good matchups on Friday night as well. I was just talking about Toronto and the New York Islanders. Kind of messy, kind of sloppy, but the Leafs come up with a victory. I think I said 4-3 in the last hour. It was a 5-4 final, but it was Austin Matthews who scored the winner. John Tavares, it's the last time he's going to face the Leafs maybe in an Islanders uniform. We'll find out in a couple of months when he's ready to tell us. Colorado with a victory over the Chicago Blackhawks. The Hawks had a scheduled goaltender in. How about that, Scott Foster? The puck-stopping accountant. Oh, it was a great story from Thursday. That was wonderful. I hope he gets a lot of recognition, a lot of publicity from this. If nothing, he's probably going to get a lot of clients for his accounting firm. He should get a piece of that. If he brings in all this new business to that accounting firm that he works for, he should get a piece of all the new business. Same thing I saw on Twitter yesterday, that there's the usual ads that come up on Twitter from the NHL and others, and one of them had Foster's name on the back of a Hawks jersey, because you can get an NHL jersey made with any name that you want, and the players get a cut of that. I hope Scott Foster gets a cut of that. If anybody bought the jersey, whether it's his family, friends, or whatever, I hope he gets a cut of that. He should. For all the attention that he's bringing, he should be getting a piece of the pie too, for all the new clients he's going to bring to his accounting firm. I think that'd be good. Tampa Bay had a victory over the New York Rangers on Friday night, 7-3. Boy, did this one take off. It was Ranger reunion night at Madison Square Garden. Dan Girardi, JT Miller, Ryan McDonough, now of the Tampa Bay Lightning, against their old team. Prior to the game, the obligatory video tribute. Yes, nice applause. Clap, clap, clap. Everybody fine. 7-3 the final. Both Girardi and Miller scored goals, too, against their old team. Bulls had lost 3 straight going into this one, most recently against the Boston Bruins. And Tampa, for the first time this season, stepped out of first place, and the Bruins surged by. Now, Boston hosts the Florida Panthers. Today, Saturday, they can retake top spot. Schedule note, Boston and Tampa, one more game to go in the regular season. That happens on Tuesday night. This will be a fun battle for position going down the stretch to see what happens. This is going to be interesting to watch. Who's going to wind up on top? I like this. Good game on Friday with LA and Anaheim. Penalty-free, tough game, physical game, 2-1. Anaheim comes up with a victory. It was great. But watching the battles go down to the end, Blues play Arizona tonight. Then they host Washington on Monday, a home-and-home with Chicago, and they finish with Colorado on Saturday. Yes, the Colorado Avalanche, the same team that the St. Louis Blues are even with right now in the Western Conference standings. Both teams trying to get in for the final wild card spot. It's possible they could both get in, but it's more likely that only one is going to get in. So Colorado, after having the victory on Friday night, now have to play the California teams before hosting St. Louis Blues 1 week from today. Saturday, both teams in the final game of the regular season will play each other. How cool is this? Winner takes all, winner goes to the playoffs. It might shape up that way. There's no guarantee, but I'm sure on board if it does. That would be a lot of fun. That would be a lot of fun to watch on the final Saturday of the regular season. But there's other good games. As mentioned, it's Florida and Boston that kind of kick things off. It's the start of 6 games in 8 days for Florida. And that's, as much as anything, why I think Florida is going to come up a little short. 6 games in 8 days. One of them, of course, is a makeup game against the Boston Bruins because of the snowstorm that took place earlier in the season. Florida and Boston play 3 times this week. That's a rough schedule. Florida's got a couple of back-to-backs because of it, and that's why I think the Panthers are going to come up a little short. It's just too tough a schedule at the end of the season. Even though you've got 2 guys that can play goal going back, you're just going to be worn out by the end of it. Oh, and Florida's got Nashville in there too. Both teams have got something to play for. This will be a good game today. Boston would like to jump back in front of the Tampa Bay Lightning. They can do that with a victory. Looks like Jake DeBrusk is going to get back into the lineup for the Boston Bruins today. That's some good news for them. Winnipeg is in Toronto. That's an evening game. Leafs look like they're locked into 3rd in their division. They will play either Boston or Tampa, depending on who winds up in 2nd place. It's a tough matchup either way for the Maple Leafs. I know. Some are saying, oh, Winnipeg and Toronto, that could be a Stanley Cup preview. That's taking a lot of leaps and taking a lot of liberties. It is possible, but there's a lot of steps you got to go through first. Winnipeg looks pretty locked up in 2nd in the Central. I'm interested to see who they're going to match up against. Probably Minnesota. That's a good matchup. That's a good first-round series. If it's Winnipeg and Minnesota, first round, close proximity, good geography, there are fans that travel to both. I think that would be a good first round. But it's a big game because it's 2 Canadian teams. It's hockey night in Canada, Saturday night. And that'll be important. The Islanders are in New Jersey this evening. Devils get 2 more points. Help solidify yourself into the postseason. Essentially take away the Panthers' will to live. If you get a couple of points tonight after whatever happens with Florida today in Boston, make their job difficult. Got to beat the teams that are below you in the standings, and that is what the New York Islanders are. You got to win those games. Montreal is in Pittsburgh. How will Sidney Crosby bat the puck out of the air and into the net to score a goal tonight? I mean, it's become almost must-watch TV, must-see TV because of the way Sidney Crosby has scored a couple of goals recently. Whacking the puck out of the air and into the back of the net. It's like he's hitting grounders for infield practice. Except they're winding up in the back of the net and they're winning big games. It's amazing hand-eye coordination to watch. It really is. It's fun. St. Louis and Arizona, as mentioned, this is a game that's important for St. Louis. on a good run. They had won 6 straight before losing on Friday night to the Vegas Golden Knights in overtime. They did get a single point. They're in a dead heat right now with the Colorado Avalanche in the standings in the Western Conference. St. Louis is ahead of Colorado because they have played 1 fewer game. But boy, oh boy, almost identical records. Same number of regulation overtime wins currently. Oh, wouldn't that be fun to see it go right down to the end? Week from today, those 2 teams playing to see who gets into the playoffs. San Jose is at Las Vegas. Late game. Vegas could lock up top spot in the Pacific by gaining a single point against the San Jose Sharks. Just 1 point. That's all it'll take to lock up top spot. San Jose, yeah, they're not going to catch them. It's only a matter of time. Oh, by the way, Pittsburgh can clinch a spot in the playoffs as well with a victory over the Montreal Canadiens and if the Panthers lose in regulation. But there's some good games. San Jose, Vegas, they got a lot to play for. San Jose looks like they're going to finish second. They're going to have home ice advantage in the first round of the playoffs. Who they're going to play is a crapshoot right now because there's teams shuffling in and out. Anaheim took over with a victory against the LA Kings on Friday, but there's no guarantee that's going to last. And there's another game out west that I'm a little bit curious about. Western Canada, Edmonton and Calgary, Hockey Night in Canada, late game of the doubleheader, Saturday night. This game could be a gong show. This game could be a total gong show. Just think about this for a second. Calgary and Edmonton. Neither team is going to the playoffs. Flames have been garbage for a couple of weeks now. Few players out of the lineup. Sure, I'll give you that. That's helped, but they've been bad. They have not been good at all. They've had their character questioned. Glenn Gulletson had his latest meltdown about that a couple of days ago, saying he thinks it's garbage. He thinks it's crap. Edmonton is on a McDavid mission right now. They'd like to get him the Art Ross Trophy. It's a small consolation prize on a real disappointing season. Both teams, as soon as the NHL season is over, if they haven't started already, are going to be going into the what happened and how do we fix this process. Neither of these 2 teams, Calgary or Edmonton, will want their provincial rival to get the upper hand in any way, shape, or form in this final meeting of the season. There is, denied or not, but there is a bit of a cowboy mentality out west. It's a wild, wild west at times. And the more physical it is, and a mine's bigger than yours mentality and approach takes over the game sometimes. That could happen in this game with Calgary and Edmonton. This could turn into a gong show really quickly. Just think about it. Edmonton and Calgary, what if the Oilers score 3 goals in the first period? How quickly do the Calgary Flames lose their mind? Pretty quick. Or if it goes the other way, and Calgary, despite the crappy play they've had over the last couple of weeks, blows up and starts scoring goals, Edmonton won't really care for that either. That game could turn into a gong show. It could turn into a gong show really fast. Last night, there was kind of the potential. LA and Anaheim, 2 big teams. Last time they played, bang, 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 3 fights in seconds. None of that garbage and nonsense last night. Teams had something important to play for. It's not to say it wasn't physical. There were better than 50 hits thrown in the game. It was a great game as well. 2-1 final. Overtime winner from Ricard Raquel. Fun game to watch. But this game in Edmonton, because they're both out of the playoffs and going nowhere except the golf course in a week, that could turn into a gong show really quickly. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports Twitter and Instagram handles. Lots to get into in our final hour. John Walton, the radio play-by-play voice of the Washington Capitals, will join us. Coming up in our next segment, our friend Sean Leahy from NBC Sports Pro-Hockey Talk will be with us. We'll whip around the league, talk about some of the big stories and a bunch of teams and things that we want to get into. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back with more after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Welcome back. It's Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Saturday edition here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, Twitter and Instagram handles. Looking for your Dog of the Day nominations. Hashtag is HU Dog of the Day. Send them to us via Twitter. Send them to us via Instagram if you wish. Email, Todd at hockeyunfiltered.com is the email. We just like to choose a Dog of the Day every Saturday. Recognize great dogs, service dogs, working dogs. We love those. Put the photo up on our website, and it goes up on our Facebook page as well. Also, an opportunity to remind you of our Little Saturday podcast every Wednesday. Drop Wednesday afternoon, just a little midweek hockey talk. It's a little weekend in the middle of the week, which is why we call it the Little Saturday podcast. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter handle. Follow our next guest on Twitter, at Sean_Leahy. He is the lead writer for NBC Sports Pro-Hockey Talk, and he joins us now. Sean, always good to have you. Is this a great time of the year or what? Final week of the season, some good matchups, still lots to be decided in the playoffs. It's good to like hockey.
No, and more importantly, there's no snow on my deck anymore. I'm wearing shorts today. So spring baseball's here, playoff hockey's here. So it's definitely the most wonderful time of the year.
It's tonight. You can sing the Andy Williams version of that if you'd like at some point. That's the most wonderful time of the year. But I want to ask you about a couple of stories this past week. Probably a few teams and playoff races. We'll just see where the conversation and stuff goes. But I love the story of Chicago over the last couple of days with their goaltender situation and the puck stopping accountant Scott Foster, who gets called in at the last minute. Hey, put your bucket on. You're going in there, and then stops all 7 thrown at him. It's a fantastic story, and like living the dream that everybody has, that it would be cool to just play in one NHL game, and he got to realize it the other day.
Oh, totally. And, this has happened several times before where guys actually got into the game, but it was only for, maybe a minute or whatever. But this guy played 14 minutes, faced 7 shots. It's Dustin Byfuglien, Patrick Laine on the other end. It's been a game that was meaningful, at least for the Jets in their playoff chances. As far as getting better seating and trying to catch the Predators in the Central there, but certainly these are always great stories, right? Because these are just guys who they're deemed the emergency backup goalie. They're at their jobs during the day, and at night they're in the press box, just maybe thinking maybe they'll get the call to at least sit on the bench. They'll get a jersey and back up the starter that night, but. And obviously the weird the weird happenings there with Forsberg getting hurt pregame, and then Delia getting the cramps in the third period. So here comes this 36-year-old accountant out of nowhere, who plays great and now is going to have a tremendous story to tell his family in 30, 40 years.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I hope he gets I said this in the last hour. I hope he gets a slice of all the new business his accounting firm is bound to get because of this as well. That all the new clients that come in over the next few days, and it's amazing they gave him the time off during tax season. But I think it's great. A couple of other teams in the Central Division that sorry, Sean, go ahead.
Percentage right. He's got a perfect save percentage right now. So maybe maybe the New York Islanders might give him a call over the summer. You never know.
Yeah, they could use some goaltending help. Hey, since you mentioned the Islanders, this is one of the stories I want to ask you about. Is that the story about Josh Ho-Sang, who spoke out quite openly in the last couple of days, saying, you know what, this is a team that could have used my help down the stretch. I was sent down because I wasn't being responsive defensively, but look at the way that this team has played. And he makes a really good case, and quite frankly, good for him for speaking out about it, because there's far too many hockey players that just keep their mouth shut and don't say anything. But he makes a very good point that he probably warranted a call-up late in the season at the very least.
Yeah, he wasn't wrong. I think a lot of people want to put him down because he's a young player, and it's, what have you done in this league? But he makes a point. And look, when the Islanders drafted him, Garth Snow had to defend him on TSN, and you dropped a little curse word there, saying they pooped on me too when I was a junior. So there was a lot of baggage around Ho-Sang when he came out. The Islanders had faith in him. They looked past that. They saw his hockey skill and brought him on. And look, he had a good run last year, played about 20 games, and then the start this year he had another chance, and the Islanders felt he could clean up some parts of his game in the AHL. Sure, no problem. He's a young player. Young players are going to have those ups and downs, but when you look at how the rest of the Islanders season went and how they couldn't keep the puck out of their own net, and they kept bringing up these older guys with less skill and maybe guys that weren't worthy of a call-up, and Ho-Sang still sitting there in the AHL, has to, quote, work on his game. It didn't make any sense. Ho-Sang, he has the skill, certainly. You can see it at times in his 40-game-ish career. He could be a good player, obviously, if he gets it all together and kind of, as he develops his game. But is he going to develop better with his talent level? Is he going to develop better on AHL or up at the NHL level, playing with guys like Matt Barzal, John Tavares, Josh Bailey, better players? I think being around better players for a whole season, being in that locker room there's a good number of veterans in the Islanders team. Andrew Ladd, Tavares, Dennis Heidenberg, that could kind of rein him in if he, getting a little out of hand, as being a young 22-year-old kid or how old he is. So I think it was just a bad decision. I don't know why the Islanders felt they needed to keep him down there as long as they did, but it's going to be curious to see what happens this summer. One, if Garth Snow and Doug Weight stick around, and two, if Josh Ho-Sang is in camp with the team this summer, or if maybe they decide to part ways. Is
the confidence of Josh Ho-Sang in his talent, in his ability, mistaken for arrogance? I mean, he got an unnecessary amount of crap for wearing number 66 too, which is completely ridiculous.
Yeah, that was one of the most ridiculous stories that I've ever come across. But yeah, I think it goes back to what I said. He's a young player. He's not afraid to speak his mind. But in this hockey culture, you kind of need to have a resume before you can speak out for whatever silly reason. And Ho-Sang, the backlash he got was for that reason. Everyone's like, "Oh, he played 40 games. What have you done?" Yada yada yada. When he's making a great point about the team and the Islanders season in general. I mean, they couldn't figure out their defense. I know they were banged up, missing some guys, but their goaltending was atrocious. We knew they could score. That was clear.
Yeah.
Every single time Matt Barzal got a 5-point night, but they couldn't keep the puck out of their net, and this is why they're taking a big step back this season, and who knows what's going to happen with John Tavares this summer. So I hope Ho-Sang continues to stay true to himself and speak out when he feels, and that's kind of what we want to see in hockey players, right? We want some personality. We want guys to speak their mind. We don't want those cliches. So whenever we get something interesting, there's no reason why they should be, shouted down.
Hear, hear. Sean Leahy is our guest, the lead writer from NBC Sports Pro-Hockey Talk.com. @Sean_Leahy is how you follow him on Twitter. Let's jump back over to the West for a second, because I think it's a great story that St. Louis has managed to get points in 7 straight. They had their winning streak snapped last night by the Vegas Golden Knights. They did get a point for going to overtime. Colorado has amazed me that they've been able to hang around into the playoff race so far. These two teams meet a week from today. Wouldn't it be cool if they were playing for the final playoff spot in the West?
That would certainly be quite the story, quite a great way to end the regular season there. And you look at the Blues and Doug Armstrong. I don't know. He's got a knack for these kind of things. Last year, he traded Shattenkirk, and he still ended up making the playoffs. This year, makes another big trade, trading away Paul Stastny, and they've been great really for the last couple of weeks since the trade deadline, moving him away. And obviously, it helps when Jake Allen finds his game again. That big reason why they kind of tailed off at parts of the season. Same thing with Carter Hutton when he took over a little bit. His game trailed, but now Jake Allen looks like he's got his game locked in. And that's certainly a great sign for the Blues and the Avs. They've kind of, they've been around this spot for most of the season. Been getting good goaltending. Varlamov when he was healthy. Unfortunately, we'll see what happens after last night's injury with Jonathan Bernier. When he stepped in, he was great. So, they've been helped with the goaltending, and obviously up front, Nathan McKinnon, a guy who's going to be in the Hart Trophy conversation for sure. And another guy who's getting overlooked, who has really had a huge impact on their season, is Mikko Rantanen. 82 points, having a great season. Everyone's talking about McKinnon. Well, Rantanen's right there and really backing up that top scoring there. And they're getting good balanced scoring as well. Look up and down that line. There's guys shipping in with double-digit goals. So, Jared Bednar, he kind of got thrown into the fire last year after Patrick Roy abruptly quit midsummer. He had a full summer this past year, full training camp with the team, and obviously it shows in the standings as far as and them being in the playoff spot at this point in the season.
The Vegas Golden Knights are going to mean that George McPhee and Gerard Gallant are going to win the general manager and coach of the year awards, I think, as a slam dunk. But if you take them out of it, you can sure make a case for Jared Bednar. He's had a tremendous season with that roster and brought them a long way. And give Joe Sakic some credit too, because he as well took an awful lot of garbage about hanging on to Matt Duchene for as long as he did. But you know what? Kind of worked out okay for the Avalanche.
Yeah, he took his time and he waited for the right deal, and he got a great package. You could also say that the Predators made out in that deal getting Kyle Turris, but certainly the Avalanche were one of the winners there as well, picking up a package including Sam Girard, who's been a nice fit there. And you look at Bednar in his career, he's a winner, right? He won the Calder Cup. He won, I think, with the other league, in the ECHL, I think he won there as well. But he brought a winning resume to Colorado, and that now that he's had time there to implement his system and working with Sakic, getting the right personnel there. Just look at the results. Whether they make it, if they don't make the playoffs, if they don't fall short this year, you can't call that a disappointment. You can look at that step back and say it's a real big step forward for that franchise for the last couple of years, where we made the playoffs that one year and then just the bottom dropped out under Patrick Roy. But now, good foundation under Bednar, some great young players in that roster stepping up and producing. Right now, the future looks pretty bright there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And one more quick one before I let you go is right now in terms of the playoff picture, it's the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Columbus Blue Jackets who would face off in the first round. That could shuffle around a little bit and perhaps wind up being the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Philadelphia Flyers in the first round. I'm not sure how this one plays out, but regardless, I think the playoff matchups are going to be pretty intense in the Metro and in the East in general.
Yeah, I mean, for all the talk about the playoff format and how it should be changed, and you look at some of the matchups, Boston, Toronto's pretty much locked in. And like you just said, we're going to get Pittsburgh, is going to get Columbus or Philly. Obviously, the Philly one's a little more of a rival there, but Pittsburgh and Columbus had some great series the last several years. So it seems to have worked out. And just, you look at these divisions and you look at teams like the Central, getting out of some of these divisions for some of these top teams is going to be tough. And Tampa's going to have a tough road with Boston, Toronto, Washington, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Philly there. Central is Nashville, Winnipeg, the Pacific. I mean, LA has been playing pretty well. San Jose's been red hot. Vegas has done what they've done this year. So we could see, some real interesting second round matchups with some top teams maybe, failing to get out of that first round there, just because there's so many really good teams playing really good hockey this time of year.
Yeah, and it's going to be fun for all of us to watch. And the weather's good, and Sean's wearing shorts. Well, kick back, relax, maybe eat a box of raisins and hang out and have a good weekend. I'm teasing you just because I know you have an aversion to raisins. Sean Leahy from NBC Sports, Pro-Hockey-Talk.com. At Sean_Leahy is how you follow him on Twitter. Thanks for this, Sean. Always enjoy it. We'll do it again soon, man.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, Sean Leahy. If you missed it was, I forget how long, I think it was last season when Sean was our guest. I noticed in his Twitter bio that it said he likes trail mix, but he doesn't like it with raisins. And he and I went back and forth in a heated discussion for about 10 minutes about the pros and cons of raisins. He's anti-raisin. I'm very pro-raisin. I like raisins in things, but that's just me. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles. John Walton, radio play-by-play voice of the Washington Capitals, will join us in our next segment. Take you up to the top of the hour, get you set for a busy Saturday in the NHL. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. Back with more after the break.
There's special savings for Hockey Unfiltered listeners with our new ticket partner, Seat Giant. And Canadian fans can also purchase in Canadian dollars. Go to SeatGiant.ca, find the tickets you're looking for. Doesn't matter if it's NHL games, concerts, or any other event. You get a special discount with the promo code TODD. That's Todd with 2 Ds. Just enter the code, get the discount, you save. That's simple. Save on your next ticket purchase with Hockey Unfiltered and Seat Giant. The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Search engine optimization is the key to success for your online business. It can be the key to success for any business. 1-844-SEO-LEAD is the number to call to get your business at the top of all searches. An official partner of Google, they have the tools necessary to make your business the one people notice first. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now you can nominate your dog or any dog you love as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day through Instagram. Every Saturday, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis will take your nominations for the Dog of the Day. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo with the dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate your dog. We choose a winner at the end of the show, and your dog will be recognized in the HU Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova Product Design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova Product Design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more.
Welcome back. It's Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Saturday edition. Here's Saturdays and Sundays, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific at hockeyunfiltered.com. Streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, all powered by Primetime Radio. Take you up to the top of the hour. It is a busy Saturday in the National Hockey League. Florida and Boston kicking it off. Tomorrow, a good way to wrap up the weekend after you've maybe had a little celebration with family, with friends, just want to sit back and relax and enjoy some great action. It'll be the Washington Capitals in Pittsburgh to take on the Penguins. The Caps radio play-by-play voice is John Walton. You can follow him on Twitter at Walton Caps, and he joins us now. John, it's just funny how late in the season we get a matchup with Washington and Pittsburgh, two teams that have a great history together, a rivalry that has been built in the playoffs, and perhaps this is just an appetizer for an upcoming playoff series.
Well, I guess that it could be. I mean, if you look at where they may end up, I mean, if it's 1-2 in the Metropolitan Division, it probably would be like each of the last 2 years where both teams needed to win, and then they see each other in the second round. You can say what you will about the playoff format, but it certainly has enhanced this rivalry. And the Capitals, if they should face Pittsburgh again, hoping for a different result, obviously, than what's transpired over the last couple of years. But it looks pretty wide open right now in the first couple of rounds in the Metro, and it's going to be fun no matter what we see here, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it seems that the mental approach, or perhaps we're reading too much into this, with the Washington Capitals this year is a little bit different in that they didn't come into the season as the prohibitive President's Choice favorites. They're going to rack up a ton of points, and they're expected to go deep into the playoffs. But it seems as though the different mental approach or less pressure has worked for the Capitals this year as they find themselves on top of the division.
Well, it certainly hasn't hurt. I mean, when you look at, the last couple of years and the expectations, I mean, you couldn't turn on a television this time last year or the year before, and every national prognosticator and pundit saying, hey, this is the year for Washington. And I think it made the crown was pretty heavy to wear going into the postseason. But, for the Caps this year, I mean, when you've had the excellent year the Tampa Bay's had, Boston, to me, might be the best team going right now. What Nashville's been able to do, what Vegas has been able to do, I don't think anybody's really talked about the Caps. I don't think that's a bad thing from a Caps perspective. I think that, it's still managed. It's kind of funny when you think about it that they've been able to be this far into the radar when if they get a win tomorrow in Pittsburgh, they're division champs again for the third straight year. But it has been a different kind of year. It's been more about developing players. It's been more about growing pains. It's, as Barry Trotz has said in recent days in the last couple of weeks, look, one of the things that I think he's proudest of as head coach is backing off on the reins. It wasn't, October and November, we needed time to heal. That's a quote that Barry has said a number of times. And I think they did. I don't think if you're riding them hard in October and November, there was a lot of healing that had to happen after losing a second straight Game 7 to Pittsburgh. I think that it has. I think by and large they're playing pretty well. Not so good last night, maybe against Carolina, but before that they'd won 9 of 10. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they play against Pittsburgh tomorrow. They've got no easy games the rest of the way. Carolina last night was the last time that Washington's going to play a game that for the other team, it doesn't mean anything. Carolina's not going to make the playoffs. But for Pittsburgh, for St. Louis, for Nashville, New Jersey, those are the last 4 games. So it's hopefully a chance for Washington to ramp up and be ready for Game 1.
Yeah, and that's what every team I think is looking for. As the Stanley Cup playoffs start, you want to be peaking in your season. And I don't know if it's a good thing to be taking on Pittsburgh, the team that you have the recent history with in the postseason, this close to the end of the year, or if you just rather avoid that matchup. Regardless, this is what the Caps have ahead of them. Will it be Braden Holtby tomorrow? Has that been announced yet?
That's not, and we know that both goalies are going to see time on the trip because it's a 2-2. The Caps immediately after the Pittsburgh game will be on the jet to St. Louis and playing the Blues on Monday night. So I can't imagine both goalies won't play. It's just a matter of in what order. There seems to be a sentiment in Washington, and I don't know if it's beyond that or not, that whoever starts the Pittsburgh game, that's going to be the starter. I don't know that I see it that crystal clear. It could be. But I don't think it's that black and white. I think, Philip Grubauer was on the shelf for a couple of days this week with a lower body tweak. Braden Holtby had a tweak as well. Phoenix Copley had come up from AHL Hershey to back up both goalies inside of the last 8 days. So I don't know that it's quite that simple. But I do think that by the time that we get to the end of that, when we are a week from today, the Capitals are going to finish the season. They're going to be at home against New Jersey, and that's traditionally when you're going to play the guy who's not going to play in the postseason gets game 82 because you're not going to see him for a while. We may know before that. Barry Trotz may say before that, but it's entirely possible. We could go into Game 1, and we may not know exactly what the coaching staff's thinking because there's a lot to consider here. Philip Grubauer has been one of the best goalies in the National Hockey League over the last 2 months. Braden Holtby has much more playoff experience, and it was the second fastest to 200 wins in NHL history. The good news from a standpoint for the Capitals is that's a pretty good selection to have. No matter who you pick, you're probably going a pretty good direction, but I would imagine that if either were to falter at all, maybe it's a quick cook because you've got another really good candidate sitting there.
And maybe it's not a bad thing to not have the defined number one role that we had with Braden Holtby the last couple of years, because we have seen other teams, and I'm not trying to keep dragging Pittsburgh into the conversation, but there have been other teams in the postseason that have used not just their starter, but their second goaltender as well, and used it successfully for long runs in the playoffs.
It's a great point, and that's exactly what Pittsburgh needed, because when Murray was hurt, you had the best possible insurance policy sitting there in Marc-Andre Fleury. You may very well need them both. And when you have, I think Washington has something that very few teams have, and I'm not sure any team has better right now than Washington, is you have two options of guys that could win you a playoff series. That is not something that many teams have. And I think you're right. It could very well be a good thing. Depending on who you see in the first round. I mean, maybe it's Philadelphia, maybe it's New Jersey, maybe if Florida still is able to come back and be part of the conversation. They're certainly not out of it, although they seem a little bit more of a long shot than they were a few days ago. But whomever it is, you need to be able to trot out your best. And if you've got another option for whatever reason, injury or otherwise, it's certainly nice to have. There's no question.
John Walton is our guest, radio play-by-play voice of the Washington Capitals. At Walton Caps is how you follow him on Twitter. Caps and the Pittsburgh Penguins play Sunday night in Pittsburgh. I've liked the play of the young players. You talked a little bit earlier in our conversation about the development of young players and how some young defensemen in particular have grown throughout this season, whether it's Madison Bowie, Christian Juice, but the young defensemen, it became inevitable that they were going to be pushed into bigger roles this season, and they've had some growing pains, but they've also played really well for the Caps.
They have, with Madison right now being in Hershey, I would think the Bears are not going to make the Calder Cup playoffs, so Bowie will certainly be back with Washington, if not in time for game one, as a depth player, and may very well get in. The growing pains, Todd, are still ongoing. They last night even. Christian Juice was stapled to the bench for the first part of the third period after a misplay late in the second. There's still teaching going on here. There's still learning going on here. This is a very different scenario even today. Even though the Caps are in first place and people say, wow, the Caps are right back where they should be, right where they've been, whatever. But this is not the same year. It's not even close. And I think that this coaching staff, from Barry Trotz through Todd Reardon, Lane Lambert, Lane Forsythe, all the way through Scott Murray in goal as a goaltending coach, the coaching job that this staff has done is the best they've done in the Barry Trotz era. There's not a doubt in my mind, because last year you had a team that was loaded. You had the 2-year window that was talked about here, where the Caps had the best team in the league in the regular season. They won the President's Trophy back-to-back. This team was mentally wounded coming out of what happened last year in the second round of the playoffs again. They had Carl Alsner walked out the door. Nate Schmidt walked out the door. Justin Williams walked out the door. Marcus Johansson walked out the door. They had so many holes to fill, top 6 in the defensive core. This was not an easy task. The Caps in mid-November were under 500 and seemingly in for a long season. The fact that Washington is where they are right now is astounding is overstating it, but surprising, I think so, to be in first place with all of the core that is still changing, that is still developing, that is still learning, and yet they're here. I think it speaks volumes about the players on this team. I think it speaks volumes about their mental toughness, because I don't care who you are. These guys are human, and they had the last 2 years happen to them where the same team beat them in almost the same fashion. That's tough to deal with, and yet they're still here when other teams, like, look at the Chicago Blackhawks. Look at other teams who have been very good over the last 5-6 years, aren't even going to be in the postseason this year. The New York Rangers, too. They're here, and I think credit to all involved for that.
Yeah, I agree. That's you have to process it mentally and be able to move past it, and then be able to perform on the ice. And the Caps are certainly doing it at this time of year. Some of the younger players have helped, but also some of the veteran players have also. Lars Eller, every time I watch the Capitals play, seems to do something that gets attention for the right reasons. I think he's just been a really good player, and understandable why they signed him to that contract extension earlier this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been enjoyable watching him unfold this season. Earlier in the year, we were in the room, and Jay Beagle at some team function along the way had called him the Tiger. And it took hold with the Washington media. So we've taken hold of the Tiger nickname and run with it. But he's been Tiger-like. I mean, he's helped out everyone that's on his line. Brett Connolly has been one of the best recipients over the last 2 years of the play of Lars Eller. He might have saved this season. No one else was going right in the top six, and TJ Oshie was in a funk, and Evgeny Kuznetsov was in a funk, and Nick Backstrom was in a funk. It was Lars Eller and Brett Connolly, in November, December, that were keeping this team afloat. He deserves great credit. He was deserving of the contract extension. Glad he's going to be in Washington for some time to come. Pretty quiet and unassuming most of the time in the locker room, but he's been great. And I think, in that third line, it just solidifies you need that center depth this time of year. Washington, through all the turnover and, quite frankly, adversity, they have it with Backstrom to Kuznetsov to Beagle and Eller. Right down the middle, they have been together through it all, and they were part of President's Trophy winning seasons, and they're still together. If Washington is going to have postseason success, and if they're finally going to break through, I think a lot of it starts with that center depth. Lars Eller, a real big part of that.
Yeah, Nick Backstrom's been sizzling hot as of late as well. Just before I let you go, John, just about this time when people will count him out, 5 goals to go in 4 games, I'm still not counting out Ovi to hit 50 on the year.
It's funny that we'd be going to St. Louis, too, because I thought, stupidly, I guess, a couple of years back, he was sitting on 47 going into the final weekend of the year. It's like, you know what? He was close, but not quite going to get there. And then all he did was bang out a hat trick in St. Louis against Ryan Miller to get to 50, and then he ends up taking the final day of the season off once he got there. So I never count out Alex Ovechkin. I think he could still get there. He may not. I mean, I think it's stacked against him a little bit now, but all he needs is 5, and he's more than capable of finding 3 in a night. It'll be fun to see if he does.
Yeah, all he needs is 5. John Walton, radio play-by-play voice of the Washington Capitals, at Walton Caps, to follow him on Twitter. Thanks for the time as always, John. Appreciate it. Have a great call tomorrow. We'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Todd.
John Walton, the radio play-by-play voice of the Washington Capitals. Caps and Pittsburgh Penguins a week before the end of the NHL regular season. Oh, yeah, that should whet the appetite nicely for fans on both sides, maybe hoping that these two teams meet again. Pittsburgh Penguins have had their way over the last couple of years. Gut-wrenching losses for the Washington Capitals. Maybe this year will be different. Maybe the Caps will be the ones to spoil the Pittsburgh Penguins in their seeking 3 in a row. It's going to be fun for all of us to watch. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles. Lots to get to before the top of the hour. Get you set for today's action. 12 games on the schedule. It goes early with Florida and Boston, some other matchups as well, and we'll squeeze in whatever else we can. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back with more after the break.
The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova Product Design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova Product Design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Being on the World Wide Web is great. Being found is the tricky part. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization is the only way your business can get a leg up on the competition. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. For the necessary tools to make your business stand out in a crowded marketplace, 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday.
Welcome back. It's the Saturday edition, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. We're live at hockeyunfiltered.com, streaming live on the Hockey Unfiltered app, Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube Live. And don't forget our podcasts available through our website. You can subscribe through iTunes and iHeartRadio, and that includes the Little Saturday podcast that drop Wednesday, usually somewhere around mid-afternoon. You can check them out. It's a little midweek hockey talk because there's always lots of stories that we want to keep an eye on and follow through the week. So we just drop our little Saturday podcast, a bit of weekend in the middle of the week. They come out Wednesday afternoon. Follow us on Twitter. We always tweet out the links, and you can check them out, as mentioned, through our website and subscribe through iTunes and iHeartRadio. A week and a day away from the end of the NHL regular season, there's the makeup game between the Florida Panthers and the Boston Bruins. A week from tomorrow, week from Sunday, that will conclude the regular season. That one had to be postponed because of the big snowstorm. It's the Florida Panthers and the Boston Bruins today. They'll play again in the middle of the week. 3 times these teams will meet over the next week. Tuukka Rask, James Reimer in goal today. And that's part of the reason I think Florida is going to come up a little bit short. It's 6 games over the next 8 days for the Florida Panthers. Couple of back-to-backs, 3 against Boston, 1 against Nashville. That is a big ask for the Florida Panthers to get into the playoffs. Good for them. They deserve an awful lot of credit for the season that they have had. Didn't start out well. It was a little shaky at the start of this season. It was a bit messy with the new coaching staff coming in and some new players coming in and some adjusting that had to take place. After that horrific season that they had a year ago, there was a lot of bad that had to be flushed out of the system, and it took a little time. It took some work. But the Florida Panthers, since the NHL All-Star break, they've been sizzling hot. And good for them for getting their game back to where it needs to be. I know it'll be frustrating not to be in the playoffs for the second straight year for the Florida Panthers, but you can be optimistic about better things to come. And there's more good players on the way, too, for Florida. There's more good, young, talented players on the way for the Florida Panthers. Boston and Florida again, and yeah, it's tough. Winnipeg and Toronto coming up later on tonight. Kind of neat. It's good. Toronto's going to play Boston or Tampa, and I'm really not sure which. It's going to be close, but you got the Bruins, who have a couple of games in hand on the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're a point behind them as we enter play on Saturday in the standings. Tampa hop back in front of Boston with victory against the New York Rangers on Friday night, so they're a point ahead. But Boston still got a couple of games in hand. Not easy games, and a bunch of games over the next week. In fact, one of those games is against Tampa coming up on Tuesday. There's your tune-in alert. I don't know who's going to end up on top. Toronto's going to face whoever finishes second in the Atlantic Division, and I'm not sure who it's going to be yet, because Tampa had lost 3 straight games before their victory against the New York Rangers on Friday, including a game against Boston on Thursday. I don't know. Toronto-Tampa, Toronto-Boston, not sure who it's going to be. Either way, it's going to be a good series. Either way, a good team is going to go out in the first round. And I know Sean Leahy mentioned this about some griping a little bit earlier on in the season. It was back a few weeks. It stops now as we get to the end of the postseason. But there's a little bit of griping about the playoff system and the playoff structure. And, a good team goes out in the first round and a good team goes out in the second round. But that's the idea. The playoffs are meant to eliminate teams from contention. And sometimes you're going to lose one. And sometimes you're going to have an upset. Even if you want the perfect seeding of 1 through 16, you're still going to have the upset occasionally. That's part of what makes the playoffs so intriguing. Isles and Devils, New Jersey can do themselves a big solid tonight with a victory against the New York Islanders. Islanders lost on Friday to the Toronto Maple Leafs in a high-scoring affair. Beat the teams below you in the standings. That's important. Great job by the New Jersey Devils at the end of that long road trip with victories against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Then they went home and beat Tampa the next night. Eked out a win against Carolina in regulation. Good job. This is another one. You can do yourself a big favor and take a big step towards the NHL postseason with a victory against the Islanders. They're playing the second half of a back-to-back. It's an opportunity. Pittsburgh will clinch their playoff spot if they get a victory against the Montreal Canadiens, and the Florida Panthers lose in regulation to the Boston Bruins. If that happens, Pittsburgh is in. They're locked. How will Sidney Crosby score this evening? We'll just have to wait and see. He's been whacking pucks out of the air over the last week. Maybe he'll do something different. I don't know. That's going to be one of the intriguing stories as we enter into the postseason. Do the Pittsburgh Penguins have enough to go through and challenge for their third consecutive Stanley Cup? They got a shot. They got as good a shot as anybody. They survived all the drama earlier on in the season. Their schedule lightened up. They found their game, got better in the late stages. Little wonky goaltending here and there, but I wouldn't count them out. St. Louis is in Arizona. I got my fingers crossed in hopes that this all plays out, that a week from today we're talking about a game between the St. Louis Blues and Colorado to take on the Avalanche, and it's a one-game, winner-take-all. Winner of 2 points gets into the postseason. It could line up that way. It might not exactly line up that way, but I sure hope it does. Because right now, the St. Louis Blues and Colorado Avalanche are even in the Western Conference playoff standings. They both have 92 points. St. Louis holds the final wild card spot currently because they have played one fewer game. This is the makeup game that will draw them even at 78 each. Oh, this is going to be fun watching all week long. This is going to be fun watching all week long. Oh, I really hope it plays out. I really hope it plays out because that would be so much fun to watch. San Jose is at Vegas. The Knights, if they pick up a single point against the San Jose Sharks, will clinch top spot in the Pacific Division. Good for them. Congratulations. What a great season the Vegas Golden Knights have had. How they do in the playoffs? I don't know yet. Structure, consistency, us against them. Nobody wanted us. We all landed here. We're a bunch of mutts. Worked all season. Will it work in the playoffs? They have some good players, but they don't have the high-priced, superstar, talented players as some other teams do. How is it going to play in the playoffs? I don't know. I'm interested. I think it's really going to depend on who their first-round matchup is. Who they match up with the first round in the playoffs will be the decider of whether I can pick Vegas to win it or not. Sure, give them a chance. I'm just not sure who they're going to match up against. The other intriguing game for me on Saturday night is the game in Western Canada with Edmonton and Calgary. I think this could become a gong show. It could really get out of hand quickly and just become a bunch of nonsense between these two Wild West teams, because that's the thinking and the mentality of both of them sometimes. They just lose their mind and things get out of hand. Calgary's been awful for a couple of weeks. They've been a dumpster fire. Edmonton, it's been the Connor McDavid show in piling up points and getting to the top of the scoring championship, and he seems kind of on a mission to win that. If he starts ringing up points early and often in Calgary in an Edmonton jersey, that won't go over well with the Flames, who have a bit of the Neanderthal mentality about them. So I'm interested to see how that game plays out. I'm really not sure, but it could get kind of silly kind of quickly. We'll be back again tomorrow to talk all about it. Saturday and Sunday, we're here, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. Back again tomorrow. And yes, of course, a little fantasy help. Stephen Laidlaw, managing editor of JobberHockey.com, with us on his regular Sunday spot with the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5 tomorrow. Our thanks to John Walton, our thanks to Sean Leahy, to Josh Smith, and to Hannah Bevis, all for joining us on the Saturday program. Enjoy a great day of hockey. It's getting underway. We'll be back again Sunday morning, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, to run through it.
So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff, the Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Nova Product Design is designed for manufacturing. Nova Product Design can get the job done with mechanical and industrial design. Nova Product Design is also fully functional for laser cutting, water jet cutting, plating, coatings, and more. Nova Product Design, innovative design and the latest technologies. Nova Product Design can design, build, and test any required types of prototypes and beta units. Visit novaproductdesign.com. We're looking for your Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day nominations every Saturday. Now you can send them through Instagram. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, send us a photo of your dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate them as the HU Dog of the Day. Include your name, the dog's name, and any other cool details you want. We choose a winner and add them to the Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day.